Okay, so in today's video I have got some Halloween ghost pumpkins, kind of, I guess that's what you'd call them. So if you want to see me do those, then keep on watching. Okay, so to do these pumpkins I went onto Amazon and basically found a pack of like decorative plastic pumpkins basically. There was quite a few in the pack. This one I don't believe was actually the biggest in there, but just based on the different sizes, this is just the selection that I made. So I believe this one, which is actually obviously my biggest one, I believe this was actually like the second biggest, and then my medium size one was obviously one smaller than that, and then my smallest one was the smallest one in the pack. So there was like quite a few of those. I think it was maybe like a pack of like 10 maybe, and I did briefly consider doing like a whole family of them but yeah, I decided that actually these ones took me long enough anyway and I didn't want to do that. So yeah, I actually gave the rest of the pumpkins to my brother's girlfriend, which yeah, more than happy to do that. So yeah, she's had the rest of them. Not sure what she's done with them, but this is obviously what I did with mine. So first of all, here you can see that I've got my air dry clay out and I just rolled it out, and then I've got a cup of water next to me and I'm just using that to sort of smooth it out and put in my pumpkin ridges where I want them. And then I decided that I wanted to add in some more, so I did roll some more out and I was going to try and incorporate it that way, but then I decided no, let's just go back to the beginning and let's just make the clay that I lay over the top bigger in the first place. So the bit of clay that I was going to add to the side, I decided to just incorporate into the clay that was already on there and then roll it out. So yeah, I just kept rolling it and then sort of flipping it so that it didn't stick to the piece of paper, and then I just sort of poked out a little hole for the stalk to go through and then just laid it over the top. Yeah, I did have a couple sections where it had sort of cracked a little bit, but I just used some like wooden clay tools to sort of smooth it out a little bit. And then yeah, like I say, I also had a cup of water that I was using to smooth sections out. So obviously you can see here I'm sort of like not cutting into it but indenting into it where the ridges are going to be, and then I went over with those afterwards and smoothed them out with water. But I did actually have to cut little sections out of this to be able to actually smooth it in properly, and make it sort of like seamless, because I didn't want there to be any gaps between the pumpkin and the clay. I wanted the clay to sort of dry naturally onto the pumpkin so that it wouldn't like crack or like come off of the pumpkin. So yeah, I didn't want any sort of gapping underneath it. So yeah, I did have to cut some sections out just to make it actually fit correctly, which did obviously, as you can see at the top there, make some cracks, but that wasn't sort of the end of the world. I just kind of went with it, tried to make it work, and then in the end, once it had dried, it did dry with some cracks in it, but that was fine. I didn't mind that too much, because I kind of filled it with some of the paint anyway, and then yeah, I feel like the sort of crack texture is fine. Like, it makes it look a little bit more natural, I guess. I mean, that's the wrong word. When have you ever seen a naturally growing pumpkin with a ghost on it? But yeah, obviously it just adds a little bit more texture rather than it being completely smooth, which yeah, like I say, is absolutely fine. So yeah, you can see obviously here I'm sort of going over and making sure that everything is like flush with the actual pumpkin, which at this point I think I'd kind of gotten down and that was okay. And then yeah, like I said earlier, I went in with some water. I was literally just putting the water on my finger and then just running it over the clay to smooth some sections out. And then yeah, where the like indents were as well, I used that to make them a little bit softer, and yeah, again, like I say, smooth them out a little bit more. And then I also had to figure out afterwards where I was going to put the little ghost face. So it took me a little while to actually like spin around the pumpkin and decide where the front was going to be and what the face was going to look like, and obviously also where the face was actually going to sit on the pumpkin. So yeah, that took me a little while to figure out, and I was kind of trying to sort of go over it whilst I was doing this section and sort of figure out where I wanted it to go. But yeah, like I said, it did take me a little while to figure it out, and I actually in the end did that a little bit off camera, but you could see it just there a little bit. We had the 2 eyes and the mouth in there, and then yeah, obviously when I paint them in a couple of minutes, you'll obviously see where the face lies and everything. So yeah, I then just repeated the process again for the middle size pumpkin, which was definitely a lot easier with it with it being a lot smaller. It definitely didn't take me as long, and as well, I feel like once you've done something like this once, you know exactly what you're doing and it's not a problem anymore. So yeah, obviously, like I say, went in and did the middle sized pumpkin, and again using the water to smooth it out. This one I did kind of, obviously, like I said, with the pack of pumpkins that I bought, there was a few of these ones and a few of the small ones as well, so I did sort of go through and try and pick out the best shaped one, the ones with like the best sort of segment shaping. But this one sort of had a couple of bigger segments, which I couldn't decide if it looked odd or if it looked okay, but in the end I think I came to the conclusion that they look okay and that I do actually like them. And again with this one, obviously had to figure out which way I wanted the front and what I wanted it to look like, what I wanted the face and everything to look like. So yeah, obviously doing that as well sort of adds in like an extra element of design. But yeah, you can see where I picked out this time, and this time I did a different face. So I just did a small little mouth, as you can see, and then 2 quite a bit bigger eyes, like long thin eyes. So yeah, that was the face that I went for on that one. As you can see in the corner, I kind of tried to keep them out of the way as much as possible, because when I was sort of smoothing things out and rolling things out or whatever, I kept poking it with my nail, so I didn't want to end up with like loads of nail indentations in the clay. But yeah, obviously you can see here doing the smallest one, and I think actually the easiest one to do was the middle one. I feel like the bigger one was like quite, well, obviously it was quite big and time consuming to work with, and then the smaller one was just sort of, I don't know, it was kind of difficult to get the right balance of clay to pumpkin, which was actually quite difficult with this one, because it's quite it's not very tall, it's like more wide than it is tall. So yeah, I had to kind of figure out how far down the clay was going to come, but in the end I do actually think this little baby one is really cute. So I went for a similar face on this one, you know, the small eyes and then the small mouth as well. And then yeah, I just left these over the weekend to dry fully, and then I did a couple of coats of white acrylic. So yeah, you will see that there are some cracks on these, but yeah, I basically just tried to go over them as much as I could with the white paint to see what would kind of happen, and most of the cracks did kind of fill in with that. And then like I said, obviously anything extra is just sort of texture. But yeah, you would have seen just then I started painting the little one with sort of some grey sort of shadow paint, and then I decided that I wanted to actually have a look and see what it would look like if I just painted the eyes and mouth, and see if I preferred them being fully white. So I painted the middle one and the bigger one, the eyes and the mouth. So yeah, like I said earlier, obviously you can see the face on this one a little bit more now. So you've got some more triangle eyes and then a more sort of like frowny face, I guess, or like frowning mouth. So yeah, I decided to go in and paint those first of all to kind of see how it would look, and then obviously went back in and did the same thing on the little baby ghost pumpkin as well, and then ultimately decided that I was going to go ahead with the grey and put in some extra details anyway. And yeah, it definitely didn't stay like this. It definitely took some working out and some painting over and blending. So yeah, I obviously with the white base, they were very white to begin with, and then obviously putting the grey over the top, I did make the grey, maybe I could have mixed a little bit more white in, and then I wouldn't have had to blend bits as much. But yeah, I didn't mind doing it. I feel like it kind of made it easier for me to actually go over and get the look that I wanted. So yeah, that's how I left that one for now, and then went in and did exactly the same process on the middle one. So what I was basically doing was taking the grey paint and then obviously putting it in each of the lines, and then also doing sort of a ring around the stalk as well. So yeah, obviously you can see on the smaller one I took the grey lines all the way down to the bottom, but then on the middle and the biggest one I kind of took them 1/2 to 3/4 of the way down, and then stopped. I didn't take them the whole way, but what I actually did was put the paint on and then kind of let it sit for a little while, not so that obviously it was completely dry, but so that it was a lot drier than it actually was beforehand. Obviously with being acrylic paint, it is a little bit more liquidy, and then also adding water or anything like that makes it a little bit more liquidy as well. So yeah, I put the grey on and then waited for it to sort of set a little bit, and then yeah, went back over with the white, which obviously because it's acrylic and water activated, it meant that when I went back over with the white, the obviously liquidiness of the white paint sort of reactivated the grey paint. So yeah, it made it easier for me to blend it rather than just going straight over the completely wet grey paint with white paint. It made it a lot more easier to sort of work with, and then yeah, obviously as you can see me doing here, it made it easier for me to sort of go back over and pick bits where I wanted a little bit darker and a little bit lighter. So yeah, obviously adding more grey in here to the actual segments themselves, so I just wanted to sort of blend them in a little bit more as well, rather than just having these like grey lines down the middle and then having obviously like the stark white in the centres. So yeah, I sort of added a little bit extra in and then just kept working with it until I was happy really. And then yeah, you'll obviously see at the end anyway, but once they dried, the grey isn't actually that noticeable. It literally just looks like a regular shadow, which is exactly the look that I was going for anyway. So yeah, I'm really glad that that's how they ended up looking. But yeah, once I had finished with the grey and I was happy, I then took some brown paint and went over all of the stalks. So this brown paint isn't like completely opaque or anything, but yeah, I thought that was kind of okay because there was sort of a wood grain or like wood texture on these, or like stalk texture I guess. So yeah, that meant that they came out as they should. And then you can see here I added some little white highlights to the eyes, and then yeah, that was all 3 of them done. So these are the finished pumpkins. We obviously have the big one here, then we have the medium-sized one, and then we also have the little baby pumpkin as well. So yeah, that is them all complete. Please let me know what you think down below, and yeah, make sure to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.